Hello, guys. Quite exciting. It's been a journey. Frank Mola is my name. Of course, we're talking about being 40. And today, I'm not with my co-host, Venus Chengo, but I'm going to represent either way. Why being 40? Where did this idea of being 40 come from? Two people went to the same primary school. We went separate different high schools. We came back and met in the university where basically Venus went through the university. But for me, I think I just passed the university, right? Later, we came and met after many, many years. And we sat back and said, hey, look at us now. Can we just come up and do something around being 40, our life story? We just go out there and see how we can impact different people, be it the young ones, being the older ones, being the people within our own age set, right? And the idea was just born from a small session. Kerry Kagiri was right there, in the center of everything and saying, guys, yes, we can do this, we can do this. So we sat and said, okay, fine. So how do we go about it? So all we just needed was a few cameras, guys who can shoot. And that's how we started telling our stories at Being 40. So again, we didn't have any scripts. We didn't have anything, a manual to follow through. It's where we just came in and we sat and we started shooting. Guys, I'll tell you, we just went into a setting and we started talking, basically. Venus was seated there, I'm seated here. Kerry was seated behind the cameras, and all of a sudden we're telling our stories. And the first episode that we did, just to appreciate for the people who maybe came in a bit later, it was all about getting to know us. We call it Get to Know Us. That was Venus and myself. Hello, greetings. I'm Frank Mola, quite excited and really happy. And there's certain things that I've learned in life. And, one of the most interesting and intriguing statements that I always say is, I'd rather be a lonely lion than a popular sheep.
Through this journey called life, I've learned to love myself. One thing that has always come out is that human beings are born selfish. So if you're waiting for someone else to show you love, you'll always get disappointed. But when you love yourself, it's a way to model to other people how you want them to love you. My name is Venus Chengo, and I'm a counseling psychologist.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to our channel.
Oh, yes. Karibuni sana. This is all about being 40. I'm so excited. Okay, I know I don't look 40, but yeah, as in, yes, me and Yule mama, but yeah, life just happens and we have to keep on going. So I'm really happy that I'm here. Tuambie jina, me and Venus Chengo. To be here demwa auta.
Frank Mola, lakini, back in the days, I was being called Otis. Otieno.
Oh my God, Otis ni jina ya wapi, my God. So if you guys don't know, I was actually Frank's head girl. He was such a bully, very naughty. Alikuwa anachapwa every day kwa parade.
My friends, back in the days.
Right now, nakuangalia Frank, I'm like, enyewe, Yesu ni Bwana. People can change, environment can, shape you very differently. How has it been for you?
It's been a fun journey, I can say it. From Kariobangi South, like you said it, K South, the place to be. Your place was going to become Otis. And then, as we grew up, tukaanza kujipatia some other names, and it came like Frank Mola. That's my new name, Frank Mola. So Otis nearly dropped at some point when we talk at K South. So we're talking about our story, our life journey, where we went to school. It's a place called Nairobi River Primary School. Guys, wait for episode 14 coming before we close this. And then you get to know what we're talking about, getting to know us. And that's how Being 40 started. So why the name Being 40? Basically, we thought of a number of names. We sat back and said, what about over 40? And then somebody said, no. There's a group calling themselves over 20, I think, over 25. And we felt there'd be a bit of conflict, right? So we just came up with Being 40, and you realize we deliberately misspelled 40. F-O-U-R-T-Y is our Being 40, but I was made to understand it's already been adopted in one of the dictionaries. So Being 40 is all about my story, my journey, Venus's story, Venus's journey, where we grew up. I grew up in Kariobangi South. Venus grew up in Outer Ring Estate. And we both went to Nairobi River Primary School from class 1 all through to class 8 It was really exciting. Now, I want to take you back to where this started, but not with my words, because I think I'm talking too much right now. I want to take you back to the video clips on the different episodes we've had. So we've done from episode 1 to episode 13, guys. Wow, I think I'm proud of myself. Venus, I'm proud on your behalf, since I'm representing you, right? So episode 1, like I said, we talked about getting to know us. Episode 2, we sat back and said, what is it that I would have told my 20 years or my 30 year self? The third thing I wish somebody told me about was purpose in life. Because if I started from my 20s and my 30s, what I know now, and I realize purpose is something that is very critical in life, because you get to a certain point, you define success in a very different way. It's not about money. It's not about the material things you have. It becomes your purpose in life. Nataka kupush to Venus atuambie, what are these 3 things you wish Frank told you or somebody told you when you were 20s and 30s?
Your coffee.
Pete's coffee.
Pete's coffee. You know, in life you have to find your passion. Yeah? Passion. What drives you? What is this thing that you don't have to be pushed to wake up from bed? Yani unajikuta tu umeamka. Yeah? And that is what you're calling purpose.
Purpose.
One other thing that I really wish someone could tell me is how to balance friendships and to maintain the ones that I really value.
I agree.
Yes. And the third one is just free spirit. I envy you about that. Me wanga, I don't want to label myself, but I'm a bit, I'm not very, very flexible.
Free spirit.
Like, because nakwanga tu na hii ka mindset, I'm like, you know,
focus. This is
I'm
where,
this road,
yeah.
But now slowly, I'm learning in my 40s. I wish I knew it earlier because I'll have more adventure.
I agree.
Like you. So those 3 things.
Those 3 things.
Guys, passion, purpose. Number 2, friendships.
Friendships,
okay?
yeah.
And number 3, fun.
Fun.
The 3 Fs. Yani, like I wish I could be so free-willed to like myself. Yani unajiangusha.
And that was episode 2. So really exciting things, guys. Again, we went up and discussed, hey, careers at 40, you know, can you start a career at 40? Do you believe in the fact that you can only start your career when you're younger, maybe 20s or 30s, but at 40, what are you doing in terms of your career? That was the 3rd episode.
Awesome. Yani, it feels nice to be served by you. Because anyway, we are the ones to serve. So it's really awesome. Thank
cool.
you. I really appreciate it.
Karibu. So welcome again, guys. We're back to Being 40.
Yeah.
I know she loves coffee, so I had to serve her some coffee today.
If you want to surprise me, just bring me coffee, whatever, brewer, coffee. Coffee.
Yeah. And the one thing I can tell you guys is this. When we went back, I think it's like hibernation, right? We just went back. Cindio?
Yeah.
But some of the lessons and some of the things that I think we should consider is, as we go back to the new normal, the way people are calling it, the new normal, my take and my advice to you is, what are some of the things that you need to deliberately, cautiously sit back and ask yourself you should not return back to? Because I know now, guys are suffering. We've had cases of divorce cases, domestic violence everywhere. Why? Because all of a sudden you're realizing, nilimari, kumbe kuna kitu ingine I didn't know.
Exactly.
Because you're confined. So it's all about, what are some of the things you can do now that you're alone?
Some of the things we are seeing, you know, showing up in terms of domestic violence, nanini. Do you know their personality issues? Like, these things were happening.
Tell me more.
Had defense mechanisms. As in, I would get out of the house, naenda na kunywa na mabeste, na piga noise na gossip na mabeste wangu. But now, we have curfew, we have, you know, so we have been confined into this space where it's a do or die sort of.
You must adapt.
Asira inapanda, roof in a blow. And that's how you're finding watu wanachapana.
We went ahead and discussed about conflicts in relationships. And we are still targeting people who are around 40 years, right? So one of the episodes, really exciting, talking about conflicts in relationships. Guys, today we're going to talk about how to handle conflicts in relationships, in marriages, you know? And to open up the conversation, I think I always say that everybody's trying to find the right person, but nobody is willing to be that right person.
One thing I'd like to start with is a lot of marriages break because of unresolved conflict issues. All right, so mmekuanga na domes, you know, every other time there are issues, but you always make up using the wrong approach. For example, you become intimate and everyone becomes, you know, hormones are in place, blah, 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 and everything gets back on its track. But remember, you have not resolved the issue. Probably it was something that needed a lot of attention, but I mean, we've moved on. I'm happy. This guy has shown me affection, so I choose to forget about it. But it always comes up. It always shows up later on. Yeah, and that's why we, you know, as psychologists, we always look out for vicious patterns, you know, vicious cycles, whereby yes, he did this, and then this happened, and then we went back to normal. Again, something else happens, maybe totally different from the previous one. Yeah. Then you deal with the issue, you know, kawaida too, maybe you make up and all that, but not dealing directly, not hitting that, yes. Yeah. So we love to hide stuff. We love, you know, kuna kwanga pia na that perception of what will my enemy say. I don't want to show people out there I'm crying. So you man up and you say, I'll be happy. But your house is literally on fire. Your relationship is literally on fire. So remember, marriage or relationship has stages. So the first 2 years, we call them the, you know, the passion. Where the passion exists. You know, it's all about love. You know, you're always loving on each other. But after that, you have to work on the relationship because conflict plays a major role in this stage of relationship. And psychologist says it can take between 2 to 15 years. Wow. Yes. And a lot of marriages break on the 7th year. You know, because by that time, umejaribu, umevumilia, and then you think, whatever. I am done. Whatever my enemy says, whatever, I don't care even what my pastor says. I am done with this person. Men can be very, very insensitive. So no matter how much you cry, that will not change them. All right? So the best approach is always to look for the perfect time to sit down and talk about these issues. Words really matter. Timing is very important.
And then we realized that we cannot just talk about conflicts. So we connected with dating at 40, and we were saying, is it possible for you to date at 40? Be that you're separated, be that you're single and you've not dated yet. Is it possible for you to date at 40 or start?
Harder as you grow older to decide how this thing is gonna go. You're so set in your ways. Yeah. You, especially if you've been single for long, you're setting a standard life of the way things go. Nobody asks you anything, you do anything. I'm a grown up, I can do what I want. And then suddenly you're like, okay, I also don't want to be alone. You see, for me, I know God put in my heart that I shall have my husband, we shall bring up a family, and you know, he's the God of promises. He's not a man that he should lie. So I know that is what his promise is to me, and that I'm holding on to it. So what happens is then, as you're meeting people, you're very clear on what you want, and so what I find myself doing half the time is next. I'm very next because I don't know where that line is of saying that I want to give this time, and I think that's a difficulty that we have in our 40s. I don't know about you, Frank, but for me it's so difficult because half the time you meet someone and you'll be very quick to know whether this is going nowhere or if it's serious. It's difficult, yeah, I get that. And Venus, I know you may have gotten married earlier, but is it really different back from when you were dating back then? This thing we are saying of anti-sidri, you'll meet someone and you'll meet phase one. Yeah. Does it mean that we just need to be patient? Because I think our problem in our 40s is that we really are not patient.
Exactly. And I think you also are, mature. So you actually know what you want when you're in your 40s. But for me, I got married pretty young. I met my husband when I was so young. So the wedding happened when I was, I think, 25, if my memory serves me right.
Oh my God, you even forgot.
And at that time, yes, I mean, at 40, you start having memory losses. So that's actually, science actually says that. But at the end of the day, I think it's easier when you're in your 20s because then you don't have, that perfection kind of thing. What really drives you is love.
A very interesting episode. The other one which was really interesting and most people really, it was trending all over entanglement. But for us, we called it mpango wa kando, the Ben 10s, you know, I mean, that's a language we know, guys. So entanglement is just a phrase, but we had to localize it. It's okay, we can slide into midlife crisis, but when we come back, we'll have learned something. And if you look at the Kenyan context, or African context, so to speak, this man who goes out, be it midlife crisis, I don't think for us we go because of midlife crisis. Nitamat. Just sit back and it's like,
they're different.
I don't think it's being driven by midlife crisis, because you'll just sit and go back, and I kid you not, a man who steps out and gets that mpango wa kando, he will still go for another one and another one. If you start with the first one, it will not end. And that's a serious crisis. I will not call that entanglement. No.
But you see the same thing, a lady who goes out of her marriage and discovers something, you know, something that they never used to get. You know, it's an addiction. Sex can be addictive. And especially when this battery never actually, you know, runs out, you know. So at the end of the day, the same thing that happens to any man will happen to a woman. And I'm telling you, Frank, and mark my words, women can do stuff. Women can keep secrets.
Please,
you know,
tell me.
Let me just tell you, women.
I need to know these tips.
Women, I always say, you know, women are driven by emotions. You know, they're driven by emotions. But if they want to keep secrets, they can keep secrets for long. And you see, talking about midlife crisis, we said midlife crisis ideally and psychologically starts at 45. But of course, there are those who are, you know, as she said, by 40 she felt that she was going through
midlife crisis.
And one of the things that, you know, we experience, you know, in midlife crisis is, you know, there's a lot of jealousy, something that you brought up, and there's physical pain that is actually brought out by psychological pain. So where there's frustration, you find that you get what we call, you know, you get like physical diseases that they're manifesting themselves.
Okay.
And I believe, you know, when you're in that space, you need a way out. You need a breather. And that's where a Ben 10 comes. There are times that life literally pushes you into something, not because you want, but because you need to breathe. You understand?
Is it a good thing to do? I don't think it is. I mean,
it
honestly.
It is not a good thing. Personally, as I say, being a Christian, I don't believe in that. I believe in, you know, communicating and trying, you know, because personally, I mean, I have had those moments where I've been in doubt. You know, we are all human beings and we experience stuff in relationship. But remember, communication remains key. You know, there are those times I felt, oh, my husband is not giving me attention. But when you go out there, let me tell you, Frank, the younger generation, they're very bold. Oh, yes, these young men, they will tell you, oh, my, I love you. You know, they're very bold. But for me, one thing that I always say, you know, I'm married, you know, you just cutter that story, you know.
We went ahead and talked about midlife crisis, and we defined it in different ways. When you talk about midlife crisis, what does it mean to you? There are people we sat back and realized jealousy is part of midlife crisis, separations, diseases, losing a loved one, and many more. Again, you cannot miss some snippets of that episode. We talked about exercise. And exercise, guys, we talked about physical and mental health. Exercise is not just about the gym. Nope. And mostly we emphasized at 40. What do you think about exercise and exercising? Episode 9, and we're still going strong. All right? Guess what you're talking about today? Mental health, physical health.
Let me tell you guys, and this, I'm very, very serious about it. I've been exercising, but from a mental perspective, yeah? Like, I have mental muscle. Kwanza kukimbia bado, as in, I'm still psyching myself up. I do like 5 skips in the,
Mental muscle.
wewe umeleta physical, mimi naleta mental muscle, yeah. And for those of you who wamekuwa kusema sijui Venus, sijui watoto, please note that I love my body. I love my body. I eat what I want. Once in a while, I'll exercise. And of course, I love dancing. So, Frank, thank you for introducing me to the various groups, but I am yet to, you know, start dancing. And no, I've joined the WhatsApp groups, but yes. But I also feel that, Frank, mental wellness is a very, very important thing. You know, everything starts from here. This, you know, there's something you said the other day. If you tell guys that the brain is an app, they would start using it. And ideally, that's what we are saying.
Statistics and data shows that at least it's unfortunate that smartphones have moved from being novelties to addiction, right?
True.
And a day, our smartphones, I mean what you're holding right now, we look at it more than 150 times in a day. right? And that has some ripple effect in us. So the times you spend looking at your phone, and you talked about the mental health, right? You can, even now during these COVID times, all right? For me, what I had to do, I decided, let me benefit and leverage on the app, which is my mind.
Yes.
Don't look at somebody and feel the fact that they are all big and, physical weights and muscles and think that is being fit. No. Being fit is not about your body being that big.
Yes.
You get very slim, small guys, but they are very fit in terms of the resilience when it's time to do certain things. They're very much okay. You can get somebody who's even fat, forgive me for using that word, but they're very fit. So fitness is a mind thing. Fitness is not a physical thing where you see somebody and say, ule mse yuko fiti. Nope. We went ahead and talked about parenting teenagers. A number of us have teenagers. You know, how do you parent teenagers? By you being a present dad, is it being present by giving money or just financial terms, or are you present where you're spending time with your teenagers? What are teenagers doing now compared to teenagers then? That was a very, very interesting episode that we discussed as well. And the one thing I've come to realize is we tend to, only when teenagers do good things is when we feel like either they're worth it, or that's when we feel like they're doing, it's what it's supposed to happen. But when they do bad things, we're like, no, you cannot do that. One of the things I've learned, Jeremy is now 15. Oh my goodness. Wow. And it's interesting that it's gotten to a point where I'm learning things from him from a parenting perspective. But the one thing I know about parenting is if I did not get it from the word go, if you did not make the rules from day one, as a family, if you didn't have your values and principles from day one, it becomes a bit hard as you gravitate towards teenage for them.
Yes, my son is now 20, my daughter is 14, Rihanna, and I want to just approach this topic from, parenting a son who's 20 and just seeing him grow from, 13 all the way till 20 and now having a daughter, because, it brings in the issue of the girl and boy, their mentality from a logistic point of view, from an emotional point of view. Now, parenting my daughter, I've learned from the experience I've had with my son. And what you talked about, Frank, is about mirroring. Principles, you cannot teach, an apple does not fall far from the tree. Your child actually picks from who you are, okay? So if you're strict, if you're, if you're dealing with anger issues, that's what you're gonna see in your child. So at the end of the day, with boys, they're bold enough. You're talking about Jeremy being shy and all that, but as he grows older, you realize now his manhood comes out. His ego goes to where it is supposed to be. So he'll tell you, I want to sit down, and we'll have this man-to-man talk. But with my daughter, I'm a bit careful with her, knowing that, girls are emotional. They're driven by emotions. And that's why we are having issues of our girls going out there to, and having issues of pregnancy. Ask yourself why. What is this thing that they were told that drove them to break the rules? Because every other child from class 6, you're told about pregnancy, you're taught about your physical, changes and what is likely to happen when you have this one-on-one with boys, whatever. But at the end of the day, why do they cross that borderline? There must be something missing in our homes for them to break the rules.
And then we also talked about living in the new normal. COVID-19, guys. How has life been? We talked about people who have office husbands. And it was quite an interesting topic because you have to go home by 7. That time the curfew was by 7. Where do you go to? You're used to going home way late in the night. Now you have to go home, be with your wife or be with your husband, whether you like it or not. A number of people suffered, we know that. So we also touched on living in the new normal. And finally, I think episode 13, where we talked about leadership. And leadership, we touched on be it the church, be it the country, be it the family, and yourself as an individual. And what we realized was a baseline: you must be authentic. Guys, episode 14 is coming. You don't want to miss that.
My name is Santo Chengo, 40 as well, and very humbled to be invited to be a participant on this show this morning. Yes.
And Santo, who's your wife?
Wow, that's a very lovely question.
Yeah.
Yes. The last time I checked, I believe it was you.
So guys, for those of you who've been asking, this is my lovely husband of so many years. We have so many kids. And it's really an honor to be having you here.
We call it dance and chat being in 40. Why? Because we chat and we dance, okay? Each and every episode, we are dancing to some really fancy music, be it secular music, be it whatever music you love, all right? Because we talk, we chit chat at the same time, we dance, all right? That's just one way of looking at it. When we talked about parenting teenagers, oh, trust you me, I have a teenage boy. And Venus, she has not a teenage child, but they've already gone past teenage. You need to hear what the stories we used to give about our teenage boys, what we knew and what we did not know about them. When you're talking about careers at 40, you'll be surprised, guys. I mean, we gave our stories, we gave our journeys, and even at some point, some of us were fired in some companies. I'm whispering, I hope you didn't hear that. But
Frank, you have
it's just part of the whole story, right?
How
And
has
when
it
we
been
talked
for you?
about fatherhood, which we did on the Father's Day, trust me, guys, we also had another guest who came in and we talked about fatherhood in detail and in depth.
Before then, I was responsible for myself. And then something that is brought to the fore
Yes.
is, guess what? Another human being is coming forth in due time, and they will depend on you.
I got my son when I was 27. And when my perception about being a dad was three things, like I was taught in school, the basic three things: food, shelter, and clothing.
Yes.
And for me, once that is provided, then I'm good to go. But until Jeremy came and you realize, my friend, it's beyond the three basic things that you're taught. You know, all of a sudden, your life stops being your own life. All of a sudden, your lifestyle, a lot of things change, you know, because there's a new human being, there's a new fresh breath of air that has come into your life.
I think the only difference for me was I told myself I was going to be a dad to more than one child. And that was because I'm an only child. So at sometimes I felt I missed out on so many things. Sibling rivalry and, you know, being together, doing stuff together. I felt like I really missed out on that. So I told myself that I'll have more than one child.
Wow,
Yes.
that is so profound. Now I understand why I have 3 children. Yes,
Yes.
I do understand.
That's
and why
where it
you're
comes
also
from.
pressing for more. May God
Yes.
help us.
Amen.
But
Amen.
thank you so much for
Yes.
now bringing it. You know, I've always wondered, because when we started, it's like only 2, but alas,
Yes.
we are at number 3.
Yes. And still
So
counting.
now I
Yes.
can see where
Yes.
that is coming from.
Come back on a
Yes.
video.
We talked about finances. We gave our stories, where we started, how our journey started. We gave our stories, how we used to, you know, vile tulikuwa tunakula and the way we used to live. And that one is also part of the whole.
And today, guess what? We are going to talk about investments. It's all about money. And most of you have asked us, you know, how is it, you know, having turned 40 and looking back and seeing how we have been spending money, how we have been investing. So today we're going to just be shedding more light on this. And I don't know, Frank, Jumenyamaza, Ebu tell us, when I joined him to a brutal fact, Ebu, just tell me, how has it been for you in terms of money?
I mean, when it comes to money, there's a quote I usually like expressing is, sometimes I feel like if we tell people the brain is an app, they can start using it. And, you know, this is because we spend a lot of times on our phones, on our gadgets and everything else. But if you bring it out closer to money, I mean, if we don't use so much when we're thinking, because think of it this way, if you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your finances. We buy things or we purchase things using emotions and justify using logic.
Why are you describing me? Oh my God, this is so me. Do you know, I wake up one day and I tell myself, now that sijui mshahara imeingia, let me go and treat myself because I've been working 30 days and I feel I need to reward myself. But you know what? I end up like spending 50% of that cash. and eventually there's more of, regrets, and it's been like a vicious cycle. So what I realized, because I'm such an emotional person and I always have good reasons as to why I need to reward myself. Can you imagine I have over 200 pairs of shoes? My God, you have seen me in for
There are
lessons,
only
right?
2 rules when it comes to money. Rule number 1 is never lose a single coin. And then rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1. So I always tell myself, if I have this coin and I'm not able to use this money, or I'm not able to spend it it's just the sitting of, I keep on reminding myself, when it comes to money, what is the simplest way of me making sure that I'm able to have it and contained? So that's why I sit back and I say, I've given myself 2 rules. 1, never lose a single coin. And losing is spending on things that you really don't need, which links to the emotional aspect of our lives, right? Then rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1.
All I'm simply telling you guys is each and every clip has a story to it. Each and every episode has a story to it. When we talked about, what are some of the things you'd be looking at when you're doing exercising at 40? Is it possible for you to exercise at 40? And we're like, yes, it is. And again, if you look back, you'll see, actually, we could exercise and we're doing certain things. And that's why mixing exercise chart at 40, guys. At 40, you can be healthy mentally and physically. It's all about being 40. Everything is possible. When we talked about midlife crisis, we gave some examples as well. Very nice examples. Have we ever been in midlife crisis? You'll be surprised, guys. We have been. There's a way we define it. How would you define yours? It's all about being 40. And guys, remember, it's our story. We're just sharing it with you. We've allowed ourselves to be vulnerable. And to conclude or to finish, remember, our right is not the only right. Being 40 with Frank Mola and Venus Chengo. Asante sana. Cheers.
Amenigusa for my head, shoulder, knees and toes. Amenigusa for my head, shoulder, knees and toes. Come kwa baba, twende kwa baba. Come baba, come mama, twende kwa baba. Come kwa baba, twende kwa baba. Come baba, come mama, twende kwa baba. Nauliza, nani ataka kumpinga Simba? Yemfanya miujiza kole mhila.